The wind howled like a mourning woman across the open prairie, and June Greystone kept her head low, guiding her little sister through swaying grasses that hissed like snakes. Dust clung to her cheekbones, sweat dried to salt on her brow, and behind them, just miles now, their home smoldered. What once stood proud, the Greystone homestead, was a blackened ruin soaked in blood. Mama and Papa were gone, burned and buried beneath collapsing beams. And June didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because crying meant stopping, and stopping meant dying. Maisie's small hand gripped hers with a fierceness that seemed to radiate from her bones. The younger girl's lips were cracked, her dress torn at the sleeve, but her eyes, still wild, still firelit, searched the horizon. "Where we goin', June?" "West," June said. "West ain't nothin' but more dirt. There's water in the canyon. We'll follow the gullies. Stay low. Stay quiet." Maisie nodded, then coughed. Blood flecked. But she didn't complain. Not once. That's what June admired most about her sister. Not strength of body, but spirit. Like Mama used to say, some girls bend like willow. Others break the wind. The sun leaned heavy on the horizon, orange as a branding iron, and shadows stretched long like ghosts coming out to dance. They crested a ridge, just wide enough to show them the plains beyond. Flat. Empty. Too open. June dropped to her belly. Maisie followed. "What is it?" June's breath caught. Movement in the east. Shapes. 5. No, 6 riders. Dark figures on paint horses. The sun flared behind them, but their outline was unmistakable. Comanche. June felt her throat tighten. She'd heard the stories. Everyone in Kansas territory had. The raiding, the scalping, the swift justice. She also knew better than to judge what she hadn't seen herself. But now, none of that mattered. They were being hunted. "Crawl," June whispered. "Don't run. Not yet." They slithered like snakes into a shallow ravine, knees scraping stone, hands numb from gripping sagebrush and dirt. The gully wasn't deep enough. Not by a mile. But it gave them seconds. Maybe enough. Then came the sound, distant hoofbeats. Fast. Rhythmic. No shouting. Just the pounding of war ponies and the low grunts of riders who knew how to track through silence. June pulled Maisie behind a rock shelf and pressed her close. "Don't move. Don't breathe." The riders passed overhead like wolves above a den. The hoofbeats slowed. One of them dismounted. Footsteps. Crunching gravel. A shadow passed over June's eyes. Then a voice, low and steady. "Little rabbits think rock will save them." The English was broken, but not unfamiliar. The tone wasn't angry. It was amused. That was worse. A hand reached down and grabbed June by the collar, hauling her up like a sack of grain. She swung, elbowed, screamed. Maisie shrieked and kicked. But it was no use. The Comanche warriors were quick and precise. 2 of them restrained the girls while another, the one who'd spoken, crouched before June, studying her face with narrowed eyes. "Green eyes," he said, "like prairie cat." June glared back. "Let us go." He ignored her, reached out, touched her chin. June flinched, but didn't back down. "You fight, even small. That is good." Maisie tried to bite one of the men holding her. He chuckled and muttered something in Comanche. The others laughed. They bound the girls with braided leather and lifted them onto a single horse. One behind the other. No blindfolds. No bags over heads. Just raw silence and the distant calls of a coyote as the night began to bleed in. The ride was long and cold. Prairie grasses gave way to red rock and scattered juniper trees. Somewhere behind them, a hawk screamed, circling something that no longer moved. Maybe a deer. Maybe something else. Maisie leaned against her sister. "You think they'll kill us?" June swallowed hard. "I think they haven't yet." At dawn, they reached the camp. It was nestled between 2 buttes, hidden by brush and sheer rock faces. Smoke rose from cook fires. Children played. Women worked hides. It was ordinary, and somehow that made it worse. A village shouldn't look peaceful when you'd just been stolen. They were dragged before a ring of warriors, all dressed in fringed leather and bone talismans. At the center stood a man with a white streak across his face like lightning. Iron Ghost. June would later learn. He said nothing, just stared, until the man who'd first found them stepped forward. "She's the one," he said. "The older girl. I see it in her." Iron Ghost narrowed his eyes. "What do you see, Dakota?" Dakota gestured to June. "She is blood of the ghost woman." A murmur rippled through the warriors. Some stepped back. Others spit on the ground. Iron Ghost stepped forward and knelt, locking eyes with June. "Your mother was Sarah Greystone?" he asked, this time in English, as sharp as stone. June's jaw tightened. "You knew her. She saved my sister from white slavers, then burned 10 men alive for what they did." June didn't speak. She vanished. "But we never forget." Iron Ghost stood again, turned to the others. "We have captured daughters of the flame, the ones with her blood." A warrior snarled. "So we kill them now, before they bring fire to us." But Iron Ghost raised a hand. "No. We see what truth lies in their eyes." That night, the sisters were given food. Not much, but enough to remind them they were alive. Maisie scarfed hers down, glancing at the warriors watching them. June didn't eat. Her eyes never left the fire. Dakota approached, sat cross-legged beside them. "I don't want your kindness," June muttered. He shrugged. "It's not kindness. It's curiosity. Why haven't you killed us?" He tilted his head. "We kill threats, not questions." Maisie piped up. "Isn't that the same thing?" Dakota smiled. "Sometimes." He reached into a leather pouch and pulled out a faded token, an iron pendant shaped like a star. "Sheriff's badge. Rusted. Burned around the edges. Your mother wore this," he said, "when she came for the men who tried to chain her daughters." June's hand trembled. She didn't remember the badge, but she remembered fire, screams, a hidden place beneath the floorboards. Her mother saying, "Don't come out. Not until you hear the thunder." That thunder had been a shotgun. "You were there," she whispered. Dakota nodded. "I saw a woman become legend." Maisie's eyes widened. "She told us stories, but we thought they weren't real." "Stories are always real," Dakota said. "They're just waiting for someone to live them again." The fire cracked. Embers danced. In the distance, coyotes howled again, but this time there was something else beneath it. The thrum of hooves. Faint. Wrong. Iron Ghost rose suddenly, spoke quickly to the guards. 2 warriors slipped into the dark. Dakota stood. "They may come for you. Others. White men with black hearts, who hunt what they fear." June stood too. "Then they'll find more than they bargained for." Dakota smiled faintly. "Just like your mother." For a moment, June thought she saw it, the firelight flickering in her own eyes. Her mother's shadow behind her, the past rising again, not as fear, but as a shield. And somewhere beyond the edge of the fire's glow, trouble was already coming. June woke to a sky streaked with salmon and ash, her body sore from sleeping on bare earth. The morning was quiet, too quiet for comfort. No birdsong. No laughter from the Comanche children who'd played the evening before. Just the faint hiss of wind passing through stone and sagebrush. She sat up slowly. Maisie still slept beside her, curled up like a kitten, one hand clenched around a small rock she must have clutched through the night. June didn't blame her. The memory of fire still echoed in her bones. Their home burning, her parents screaming. The weight of loss, so immense it threatened to drag her under. But she pushed it down. She had to. That grief, that flame, it wasn't weakness. It was fuel. As she stood, Dakota approached, his moccasins making no sound across the dirt. He carried a leather bundle and a clay bowl that steamed gently in the cold air. "He didn't eat last night," he said, offering the bowl. She hesitated. "Why are you being kind to us?" "Because I've seen what happens when people choose cruelty first." He set the bowl at her feet and unwrapped the bundle. 2 rough blankets and a worn tunic. He handed the tunic to June. "It belonged to a girl we lost last winter. She had fire like you." June accepted it without a word. The fabric smelled of smoke and cedar. Dakota sat across from her, legs folded. "Do you remember the men who burned your homestead?" June's jaw clenched. "I remember the way their leader smiled." Dakota nodded. "He had a brand on his cheek, yes?" "A snake." She looked up, startled. "You've seen him." Dakota's expression darkened. "He's not the first white man to hunt girls. He rides with a group out of New Mexico. Mercenaries. Bounty hunters turned slavers. They sell to the highest bidder." June stared into the distance, eyes narrowing. "They killed my parents. Burned our name to ash." "No," Dakota said softly. "Your name burns brighter now." He reached into a pouch and pulled out a bundle of tanned leather. From it, he produced an object June hadn't expected to see again, a tomahawk, smaller than most, its handle wrapped in black cloth, its blade engraved with markings she didn't recognize. But she remembered the shape. She'd seen it buried beneath the hearthstone back home. Her mother's secret. "You found it?" she asked. "We buried it years ago. When your mother saved us, she left it in the hands of a dying warrior. A message that she would not return, but her blood might." June touched the weapon like it was made of glass. Her fingers trembled. "I'm not her." "No," Dakota said. "But her fire sleeps inside you. And maybe it's time it wakes." Behind them, Maisie stirred. She blinked blearily at the sight of June holding the tomahawk, then looked at Dakota. "Are you training my sister to be some kind of warrior?" Dakota grinned. "She already is. She just doesn't know the shape of her strength." Maisie crossed her arms. "She's good with knives. Mama taught her. And she can shoot straight even when her hands are shaking." June glanced over. "Maisie." Maisie shrugged. "What?" "It's true." Dakota looked pleased. "Then perhaps you'll both survive what's coming." The sound came again. Low. Distant. Hooves on hard ground. Not galloping. A slow, heavy approach. Not Comanche. The village moved like a beehive struck by a stick. Warriors rushed from tents, women pulled children close, and weapons were passed like torches. June stood, the tomahawk clutched tightly. Dakota barked orders in Comanche. Iron Ghost appeared moments later, already mounted, his face painted with white ash, eyes like frostbite. He turned to June. "Do you see what your mother brought us? Danger walks in your shadow." June didn't flinch. "Then maybe you should stop hiding in it." Iron Ghost looked at her with something between disdain and respect. "You speak boldly. We'll see if you fight the same." Then came the shout from the ridgeline. A man stood there, tall, draped in a black duster, silver spurs catching the sun. Around him, for others. All armed, all silent. The man cupped his hands around his mouth. "I'm here for the girls." His voice rang like a bell across the camp. June's blood turned to ice. "I know they're in there," he called. "You Comanche want to spill blood over a couple white girls? Go ahead, but I'll be taking them one way or another." Iron Ghost wheeled his horse toward the ridge. "And who are you to make demands on sacred land?" The man grinned. "Call me Elijah. Your people called me Snake once. I've earned worse." The branded cheek. The smile. It was him. June stepped forward, fury rising in her chest like a tide. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who burned us." Dakota held her back. "Not yet." But June was shaking with rage. "He killed them." Maisie's voice quiet but sharp. "He's come to finish us." Elijah spat into the dirt. "Give 'em up. You don't know what they carry. They're cursed, just like their mama." Iron Ghost raised a spear. "Then let the curse strike you dead, if you dare." The men atop the ridge laughed. But Elijah's expression changed. "Last chance, Chief. Or we burn your village the way she burned ours." June saw it then, a flicker of fear, not from the Comanche, but from Elijah. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to end something. Something that scared him. Dakota leaned close. "He fears you. He fears what you are." "What am I?" June asked. He looked her dead in the eye. "You're your mother's vengeance," with her heart still beating. Elijah turned away, and the men vanished over the ridge like smoke. But they'd be back. Iron Ghost addressed the tribe. "They will come tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But come they will. And we must decide, do we give them what they seek or stand with fire in our bones? The people murmured, divided. Dakota turned to June. Your blood divides us. Then I'll fight for it, she said. Let them come. The sun dipped lower. The prairie waited. And in that fragile hush before the storm, the air felt charged, like lightning was waiting for a reason to strike. Darkness had teeth that night. It settled over the Comanche camp not like a blanket, but like a predator crouching low in the brush. The moon, thin and silver, hung like a blade in the sky. Fires were snuffed early. Voices fell to whispers. Warriors lined the ridge, silent shadows against the rocks. Every pair of eyes fixed on the east, where death had promised it would come. June stood near the center of the camp, the weight of her mother's tomahawk slung at her hip. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Maisie crouched beside her, clutching a borrowed bough almost too large for her frame. The younger girl's freckled face was pinched with fear, but she refused to tremble. She hadn't let go of that small rock from the gully either. She called it her lucky. You don't have to fight, June said quietly. Maisie didn't look at her. I do. Their breath puffed in white curls. The air had turned cold, as if even the wind held its breath. Dakota emerged from the shadows. His face was painted with ash and ochre, a feather tied into his braid. He moved with the calm of someone who had already made peace with death. Iron Ghost wants to move the children to the caves, he said. June nodded. What about the rest? He met her eyes. We make our stand here. She swallowed hard. How many do you think he'll bring? Dakota's lips tightened. Enough to think numbers will win. From the ridge came a sharp whistle. One of the scouts. Movement. Low thunder rolled across the ground. Hooves. Many. The night lit up. Riders burst over the horizon like a swarm of hornets, lanterns swinging, gun barrels flashing in the moonlight. Shouts. Rebel yells. The mercenaries rode hard, fast and furious. No subtlety, no caution. The first volley of arrows met them head-on. 2 riders dropped. Then the night split with gunfire. The sound cracked like ice breaking underfoot. Chaos reigned. June moved on instinct. She pulled Maisie behind a rock outcropping, heart slamming in her throat. Dakota fired from a ridge, dropping a man mid-gallop with a clean shot through the eye. Then Elijah rode in. His horse kicked up gravel, his long coat billowing like black smoke. His rifle rested across the saddle, but he didn't fire. Not yet. He scanned the chaos, eyes narrowed, searching. He was looking for them. June ducked, gripping her tomahawk, sweat cold on her back. One of the mercs spotted her and broke from the main group. He dismounted, stalking toward her position. Lean and ugly, his beard matted with tobacco spit. He smiled like he'd found a prize calf on market day. Don't fight, girl, he said, cocking his pistol. You'll fetch better alive. June rose slowly. Her feet were steady. Her mother's weapon hung in her grip like it belonged there. She didn't speak. He laughed. That thing? What are you going to do, scratch me? She moved. Fast. The tomahawk's blade caught moonlight once before it buried in his shoulder. He screamed, staggered back, firing blindly. A shot grazed her arm, hot and fast. Pain flared. She didn't care. She ripped the blade free. He fell. He didn't get back up. From behind the rocks, Maisie whispered, You killed him. June knelt, hand pressed to the bleeding graze. I did what Mama would have done. Screams rose across the camp. Wood burned. Smoke curled skyward. Iron Ghost fought like something born from bone and fury. He moved through the chaos, spearing men from their saddles. But the numbers were against them. More mercs kept coming. Gunshots echoed off the rocks like drumbeats of a war no one wanted, but no one could stop. Dakota found them again, limping, bloodied, but alive. They're trying to flank us, he said through clenched teeth. We have to fall back. June's mind raced. She looked toward the cliff walls. The caves. The canyon, she said. We take them there. Funnel them in. Strip their numbers. Dakota looked at her. Something lit in his eyes, not surprise. Recognition. You think like her, he said. She didn't have time to feel it. We'll draw them in. Iron Ghost heard. He nodded once. The retreat began, not in panic, but in precision. The Comanche fell back, firing as they moved, leading the mercenaries into the tight gorge that funneled from the edge of the camp to the deeper caves. June and Maisie moved with them, sticking close to Dakota, who staggered now, one leg dragging. Shots rang off the rocks. A bullet sparked inches from June's head. She didn't duck. She ran. Then Elijah appeared again, blocking the canyon entrance. Alone. He raised his rifle, aimed directly at her. She froze. Their eyes met. He sneered. "You're just like your damn mother." June stepped forward. "Then you already know how this ends." She threw the tomahawk. It spun through the air, a flash of silver and death. Elijah jerked sideways, the blade slicing across his cheek. He screamed, staggered, lost his grip on the rifle. Dakota didn't hesitate. He tackled the man from behind, the two of them vanishing in a tumble of limbs and fury. Gunfire flared again. Maisie pulled June back. The caves. They ran. The gorge lit with fire. Warriors screamed. Men fell. But the Comanche held the line. By the time dawn broke, the mercenaries were gone. Scattered. Dead or limping into the wild with empty guns and blood in their boots. Elijah's body wasn't found. Neither was Dakota's. But the tomahawk lay at the canyon's mouth, buried in the dirt, slick with blood. June picked it up in silence. Behind her, Maisie wept, not from fear, but release. Iron Ghost approached, his face streaked with soot. "You bled for us," he said. June looked at the blade. He was the last of them? No, Iron Ghost said. But he was the head. The others will slink away without their snake. The silence that followed was heavy. Then Iron Ghost bent his knee. The other warriors followed. "To the daughter of Ghost Woman," he said. Maisie looked at her sister. "You're a legend now." "No," June whispered. "I'm just a girl who finally picked up what her mama left behind." And somewhere in the canyon wind, it felt like her mother was listening. The morning sun spilled gold over blood-stained rock and charred cedar, illuminating a battlefield hushed by the weight of aftermath. Smoke still curled from spent gun barrels, and scavenger birds circled high above the gorge, waiting for silence to give way to decay. But in the heart of the Comanche Canyon, the survivors did not mourn, not yet. Not while names still had breath and legends still moved on 2 feet. June stood at the canyon's edge, the tomahawk in her hand crusted with dried blood. Her arm was wrapped, her jaw set. She hadn't slept. She didn't need to. Not after what she'd seen. Not after what she'd done. Beside her, Maisie sat cross-legged, picking at a torn edge of her sleeve, her lucky rock cupped in her palm. She had a bruise blooming on her cheek, a split lip, and dirt caked beneath her fingernails. But she was alive. More than that, she was awake in a way she had never been before. They hadn't found Dakota's body, just a trail of blood leading deeper into the ravine, and then nothing. No tracks, no gear, no sign of the man who had stood between them and the serpent. "He's not dead," Maisie said quietly. "I can feel it." June didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat tightened every time she tried to speak about him. A warrior approached and handed her a carved piece of wood wrapped in deerskin, Dakota's medicine totem, the one he carried tied around his belt. The only piece of him left. June nodded in silent thanks and pressed it to her chest. Iron Ghost gathered the warriors that remained. His voice was low, steady. "We have defended our land, our people. But the world grows darker by the year, and the fire brought to us by Ghost Woman, it has returned." He turned to June. "You carry her will, her fury, and perhaps her purpose." June stepped forward. "I didn't come to lead. I came to survive." Iron Ghost nodded. "And that is why you may lead." The warriors murmured in agreement, and for the first time, June didn't flinch under the weight of their gaze. Later that day, the wounded were tended, the fallen wrapped in blankets, and set beneath cairns built from riverstone. The Comanche did not cry loudly. They mourned in stories, in silence, in the wind's whisper as it threaded through the canyon. Maisie helped a woman gather water, her sleeves rolled up, her small hand strong. She was already learning words in their language, laughing shyly when corrected. June stood apart, her tomahawk now resting on a flat rock, wiped clean and polished with oil. The leather binding had been replaced with fresh wrap, the symbol of her mother's bloodline etched deeper into its head. She didn't know what came next, whether she and Maisie would stay, whether she could ever be more than what the world tried to make of her, a girl running from fire, carrying too many ghosts. But she knew one thing: Elijah and his kind would not be the last. She would be ready when the next shadow crept across the plains. That evening, as the sun dipped low and turned the sky into a quilt of copper and rose, Iron Ghost handed her something wrapped in oilcloth. She opened it and stared. A piece of parchment, faded. It was a bounty notice. Sarah Greystone, dead or alive, $5,000 reward. And scrawled across it, in a curling hand, "Let them hunt me. I'll be waiting with thunder." Maisie leaned against her side. "Mama left a war, but we turned it into something else, didn't we?" June looked down at her sister and nodded. "We turned it into home." Night came slow and soft, like a story winding down. In the dark, children laughed again. Drums pulsed low in the distance. Fire crackled, not with threat, but warmth. And the canyon, once threatened, once marked for ruin, stood tall beneath the stars, unchanged and unafraid. June sat beside the fire, Maisie curled beside her, already drifting to sleep. She turned her gaze skyward and whispered, "You were right, Mama. The thunder's in our blood." And somewhere, in that vast hush of prairie and starlight, the wind carried a reply. Not in words, but in peace. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.